Welcome, folks. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the faces who are coming into the room now from the waiting room. So glad to see you, as we always are. And be very, very quiet as you enter today. We are appreciating rabbits. Welcome, humans. Welcome, rabbits. Welcome anyone else who is around you in your habitat today. The rabbits are still here. There we go. We have some very festive, very, very festive rabbits. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Compassion Consortium. I am Reverend Sarah Bowen, and I am joined here today by co-founders Victoria Moran and Reverend William Melton. As always, Phil is on the bridge navigating us through the Zoomosphere, and later we'll be uploading our service to YouTube land, as I'm starting to call it now. Elaine is here too to lead our Compassion in Action segment, which today will be celebrating our animal chaplaincy cohort. And we have many other participants in our service today who I'm so excited to introduce you to as we go along our journey. So fasten your seatbelts, folks, because I expect today will be a particularly exciting ride. That said, to ensure we don't have unwanted disruptive guests, we have turned off some of the Zoom sharing functions. We meet for Sunday service monthly, usually on the fourth Sunday of every month. If you're new to us, welcome. We are an interfaith, interspiritual, and interspecies community. And I'll unpack that for you just a little bit. Interfaith means we welcome people of any spiritual or religious tradition or philosophy or system of meaning making, and we feature a diverse range within our programming. So today we are joined by Candace Laughinghouse, who will be sharing on eco-womanist theology. Interspiritual means that we believe underneath all of those paths, all of those diverse paths, there lies a commitment to three common values. And those are peace, compassionate service, and love for all of the Earth community. Finally, we are interspecies, which means we consider the needs of the other than humans who we share this planet with. At the beginning of every Sunday service, I offer an acknowledgement, drawing our awareness to beings who are indigenous to and often currently present in whatever habitat I'm in. Sometimes I also lift up special holy days or holidays that have passed or are on the horizon. For example, last month, we acknowledged the New Year on the Gregorian calendar, January 1st, as well as Squirrel Appreciation Day, National Bird Day, and National Adopt a Rescued Bird Month. So this month will go even further. In fact, today, my entire theme for this opening sermon-ish is celebration. So here we go. In honor of Tu B'Shvat, the Jewish New Year for trees, I'll acknowledge some of the trees native to my location here in New York. Happy New Year to the black walnut and the shagbark hickory, to the sour gum and the American elm, the eastern red cedar, and the cucumber magnolia, who I did not know existed until this week. Let us not forget those whose existence is threatened due to habitat loss. New Year prayers for thriving, all of you leafy ones, and all of the furry ones and feathered ones who call you home. And I also think of beech trees, who have been around me and perhaps around you, experiencing a nasty wave of something called BLD, a deadly beech leaf disease. So beeches, may you be free from suffering and hopefully restored to health. I'm going to ask all of you humans just to take a breath with me and think of the trees around you. Do you know their names? Celebrate them in your mind as important, crucial members of the habitat in which you live. Continue to notice them this year and to care for them. Next, I would like to offer a blessed Tet, Imlek, Sansar, and Happy New Year to those living according to the lunar calendar all around the world. And a happy Losar to our Tibetan Buddhist friends, a few who I know are here today. They remind us that this is an incredibly auspicious season. It's a time to leave old baggage behind and to be generous. To spring clean our homes and our shrines and our sacred spaces and perhaps even my car. And it is now the year of the water rabbit. Hence why we started with rabbits today. And accordingly, I am told that this year will be filled with longevity, peace, and prosperity, and will be a year of hope. I hope so, pun intended. And I'd be remiss not to mention that my Druid, Wiccan, and pagan friends have just celebrated Imbolc, also referred to by Celtic Christians as St. Bridget's Day, marks the halfway point between winter solace and spring equinox. Any of you celebrate that recently? And speaking of spring, Puxatani Phil saw a shadow. So we here in the East are destined for more snow. My yard this morning can attest to that, to the truth of that claim. And at the same time, my heart breaks for Phil and all of the Phils before this Phil, who I'd prefer were freed to do their own thing and let us humans predict our weather in a more compassionate way that doesn't require hauling out groundhogs. One of our chaplaincy students today is going to elaborate on that, so I'll stop there. For now, take a moment to think of any spring cleaning you might need to do. Is that your home? Is that your mind? If you're observing the Christian practice of Lent, take a moment to double down on your commitment. Let's clean house. And I've got one more special day to lift up, folks, before we move on. Did you know that February 1st, the day before Groundhog Day, was National Freedom Day, honoring the signing of a joint resolution that later was ratified as the 13th Amendment? Richard Wright began lobbying for the official observance of that day in 1942, when he was 86 years old. He launched a national tour to encourage others to celebrate this action, this step towards ending slavery. It was officially signed in a federal code 5 years later, but a year after Richard died. And did you know that the Association for the Study of African American Life and History began sponsoring a National Black History Week back in 1926? They inspired schools and communities all around the United States to organize local celebrations, establish history clubs, and host performance and lectures to reclaim Black history into mainline history. By 1960, this observance was now a full month around the US. And since 1976, each year has had a specific theme. This year, the theme is Black resistance, exploring the many ways that African Americans have resisted historic and ongoing oppressions, including terrorism of lynching and police killings, systemic inequalities, and all forms of racial violence. So I'm going to ask you to take one more moment today with me. Take a deep breath. And think of any ways that you have helped reclaim and raise up Black history into your community, your workplace, your nonprofit, your family, your school, your church, your synagogue, your meditation center. And if you find you haven't been thinking extra about that this month, I encourage you to reflect on the ways you can act to help further freedom for Black humans. As people interested in liberation in all its forms, please find the interconnections of Blackness in your advocacy or your activism. I have 5 tips, 5 examples, and I will post these links in the chat for any of you interested. Pick up Benedict Boisseron's amazing book, Afro Dog, Blackness and the Animal Question. Eat in Black-owned, plant-forward restaurants near you. Share the replay of our film talk with John Lewis and Keegan Cogan, which explored the linkages of health issues for Black humans with systems that oppress their needs and the needs of their animal neighbors. Commit to increasing equity and inclusion in your organization. And listen to the wisdom of womanist theologians, and how auspicious we have one in the house today. Listen to what she has to say. Did I leave out any important holidays, holy days, observances, celebrations that are important to you? Of course I did. I'm sorry. I only have a few minutes here. I didn't get to all of them. So if I missed something you want raised up, please chat it to me. And at the end of the service, I'll bring them back around. Your holy days, your holidays, your observances, they matter to us. Help me bring them forward. And finally, today, in my last minute here, I'd like to celebrate one more thing. We are so grateful to have a new member of our spiritual leadership team joining us today, and for the next 3 months. Adriana DeFazio is doing her field education with us. Let me tell you about Adriana for just a moment. She is a 3rd-year Master's of Divinity student at Union Theological Seminary in New York City, studying Buddhism and interreligious engagement. She's a mixed Asian American meditation teacher and facilitator whose work focuses on healing the multiracial experience and the human-animal divide. She was drawn here to the Compassion Consortium to do her field education, to bridge and supplement the human-centered chaplaincy training that she's getting, so she can extend everything she's doing to the more than human world. She is most excited about developing her theological thinking in company, and so am I, because I get to have juicy conversations with her, and in collaboration with other eco-animal-centered, spiritually oriented humans. Do we have a few of those around here? Eco-animal-centered, spiritually oriented humans? Yeah. You can follow along with Adriana's MDiv thesis research on Instagram at Vegan Theologian. I'll put that link in the chat when I'm done here too. And next month, instead of me waxing poetic in this opening sermon-ish, she'll be offering you a Dharma talk-ish and an interspecies practice inspired by the Buddhist tradition. How exciting to have a fresh new voice in our community. We are delighted. Welcome, Adriana.
Thank you, Rev. Sarah. And thank you everyone for welcoming me to this community.
Fabulous. You will be seeing more of her over the next few months. And that's all I've got today, folks. Oh, as that famous rabbit said, that's all, folks. William, over to you.
Today, we are not going to have a Song of Compassion because we've restructured today to honor our ACT students. And so we are going to now have the reading of our Tenets of Agreement, which are so important to us that we have them on our website, and we start each service with the reading. And today, the reading of our tenets will be by Elena Siglet. So let me introduce Elena. She lives in Denver, Colorado, where she's had numerous opportunities to support human animals and other than human individuals directly in various settings, including schools, formerly farmed sanctuaries, and more. So while volunteering at these animal sanctuaries, she enjoys establishing spaces that allow rescued residents to strengthen their ability to thrive through animal care with the implementation of permacultural projects. So through the Animals and Human Health Certificate Program with the University of Denver, which she completed last month, she has centered her studies around animal-related engagement in a farmed animal sanctuary setting with interest in learning how animal chaplaincy can provide mutual aid for humans, animals, and earth liberation activists experiencing burnout and compassion fatigue. So she's currently enrolled in our very own animal chaplaincy training program and will be ordained as an animal chaplain in June 2023. She lives with her partner Dylan, as well as other family members, including Mika, Jasmine, and Rose, who are rescued individuals. She joyfully participates in gardening, hiking, and experiencing moments of peace while outdoors. Elena, please proceed.
We acknowledge a divine force at the heart of the universe and in all living beings. We may refer to this force as God, but it is known by many names and appears in different forms or as formless. We recognize the common moral principles inherent within all wisdom traditions. We affirm that compassion, reverence for life, and nonviolence are fundamental to religious faith and moral philosophy, and are to be extended to all sentient beings. We stand by the principles of inclusion, diversity, and equality, and hold these as essential in our human relations. We hold that non-human animals are imbued with the same essence of life and love as are human animals, and that there is moral parity between us. We avow that humans do not own the earth, its resources, or its inhabitants, but instead must be involved in their protection and care. We endeavor to eat and live in a kind and sustainable manner, moving away from animal foods and animal-derived clothing, as well as any activities that cause harm to our fellow beings, human or otherwise. We aim to provide spiritual comfort, fellowship, and food for thought to those practicing or exploring a vegan lifestyle. We offer guidance and peer support for all those seeking a more compassionate and spiritual life. We commit to sharing these principles freely with humility and respect in support of non-human animals and the earth.
There they are. So, Sarah, am I right that we are now going on for me to introduce Ellie and the interspecies spiritual practice?
We are. Thank you, Elena, for reading the tenets. Thank you, William, for that great introduction. Yeah, we are going to move to the interspecies spiritual practice.
All right. So, Ellie Sarti is going to do our interspecies spiritual practice. She is a longtime animal advocate and founder of Compassion Arts, which is an all-volunteer arts and education initiative for expanding compassion for animals and the earth that we share. She's a former New York City-based music artist and published songwriter for over 25 years. And she changed her career direction in 2000 to focus her life and work for animals in animal rescue, sanctuaries, and humane education outreach. A grant from the Culture and Animals Foundation set her on a path for exploring ways to use music and other areas of the arts to raise awareness about our relationship with animals and deepen our understanding of them. In 2015, she created Compassion Arts with a small group of established and emerging artists in different disciplines, presenting over 80 all-volunteer and free programs over the past 8 years in advocacy for nonviolence and respect for the life we share the planet with.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to sing the praises of groundhogs, one of my favorite animals. I'm going to read just from my notes when I was putting together the practice, because I don't want to leave anything out. So basically, I have always loved groundhogs. I feel a deep respect and connection to them. Groundhogs are primarily herbivores and peaceful vegetarians. They eat a variety of plants, bark, etc. But they are also brilliant architects. They design complex multi-room homes and tunnel systems deep underground. and they are irrepressible creative artists in nature. I'm in awe of their resilience and their Jedi mind-like abilities in navigating the human world, because generally speaking, groundhogs deal with constant risk, in part from other animal predators, but primarily from people, in that they deal with the threat of violence, poisoning, displacement, or other fates in human populations that often revile them as pests or regard them as disposable roadkill. So the most familiar connection people that we may make with groundhogs is Groundhog Day, like Reverend Sarah mentioned in the beginning. And I admit that I love the spirit of the holiday, the welcoming of spring, or, mulling of what the weather is going to be. But there is a stark reality for groundhogs used in entertainment for things like Groundhog Day events, as well as in zoos. I also bless groundhogs with prayers of protection because, to my heartbreak, groundhogs are also experimented on as lab animals. They are provided to labs for experimentation through breeding colonies, and laboratories are also wild caught. Groundhogs are used in a broad range of biomedical research, hepatitis, liver cancer, endocrine and metabolic function, nervous system, cardiovascular, cerebrovascular dysfunction, hypothermia, as well as other types of research like hibernation studies. I had no idea that they are used so much in research. But aside from all this, on a totally personal level, I bless groundhogs because they are a gift in my life. And I can't believe I'm going to cry saying this. They are a source of joy and wonder for me. There isn't much wildlife in the developed area that is my habitat. And so I cherish groundhog sightings that live under the shed, and just knowing that they're here even when I can't see them and they're hibernating. I'm just very grateful to coexist with these beautiful animals. They inspire me. And so my groundhog blessing is an expression of that gratitude and my awe. This is a groundhog hibernation blessing. Groundhog living under my shed, groundhog who runs under the fence, may your season sleep be blessed through nights, through days, always. Groundhog burrowed deep in the dirt, groundhog in your home in the earth, may you be safe and sheltered through cold, through storm, always. May your life be happy and strong. May you and your family live long. May you thrive and be free from harm, in peace of being always. Groundhog deep in the earth unseen, may you be well sustained this sleep. Thank you for all you've given me. Sweet dreams till spring. Amen. And we'll close with the groundhog prayer. Blessed groundhog, master architect, brilliant creative, most generous of artists and beloved animal kin. Thank you for the gift of your burrowed home and tending the earth where we live. You grace our lives and lift our spirits with your being. Blessed lover of plants and vegetables, fruits, flowers, nuts, seeds, soil, bark, and wood, may abundance sustain and nourish your health to keep you and your loved ones strong through all seasons and in hibernation. May your burrow be sheltered and protected from harsh weather, from predators and human interference. Blessed fellow traveler on the earth, who is called groundhog and other names, such as marmot, woodchuck, and whistlepig, who peacefully shares this habitat with rabbits, squirrels, and many other furred and winged beings, as well as human animals. May you be safe, may you be free, and may you live all of your days and nights in the peace and joy of being, always. In the spirit of the divine oneness of all through God Creator, many blessings upon you, groundhog. May you and your species be appreciated and understood. Amen.
Thank you very much for that. That was very, very, very nice and inspiring. And so now I think we go over to Victoria. Am I correct?
Thank you so much. And welcome to Candace. Phil, can you highlight our wonderful guest? Hey, Candace, what a pleasure.
Good evening, afternoon, good morning, where everyone is.
Well, thank you so much for your willingness to do this. I know you are incredibly busy, and we are thrilled to pieces to have you. So the full bio for Candace was in your reminder letter. It's on our website. And if you haven't got that memorized, the short version is that Candace Laughinghouse is a PhD student at the Chicago Theological Seminary. She is a hereditary Pentecostal preacher, with that distinction going way back in her family. And she is a recognized authority on eco-womanist theology and animal rights. Plus, she's the mom of 3 beautiful daughters. Welcome, Candace.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity and everything right now. Of course, I feel so much part of community already. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, we met because Candace is going to be part of a panel at the Parliament of the World Religions in August. So our friend at Culture and Animals Foundation, Martin Rowe, who's also part of the Compassion Consortium Advisory Board, introduced us. So Candace, to just jump in on the theological front, I think that a lot of people are confused between Pentecostal and evangelical. Can you just explain to us those distinctions?
Clear about that one.
Okay.
Well, in short and brief, and I appreciate you for bringing that up as far as like my background Pentecostal, because that was really I'm grateful for it. There are things we're grateful for as far as our history, and some things we have to learn and unlearn. There's definitely some things that I'm so happy that as far as like our identity. So I grew up in the Black Pentecostal Church, Church of God in Christ. Are any of you, wave of hands or something, familiar with Bishop Yvette Flunder with the UCC? Okay, so she comes out of the same tradition. In fact, our families are really close. And I remember seeing her at Princeton at an event, and she said, "I'm so happy you're here. We need more of us to kind of get out and, have these conversations." And one of the things in being Pentecostal is being aware and very attuned with spirit. And this definitely ties in with my work as an eco-womanist. An eco-womanist that is bringing attention and awareness to the placement that's already within Indigenous traditions, specific to my own as a woman of African descent, being a connection with humanity, nature, and spirit. Okay. And so as a Pentecostal, let me get to that important one. It's quite different from evangelicalism. Now, you have the evangelical movements. I teach religious studies too, so that's totally different. Of course, we know, I think it was around about the late 70s when that was in early 80s when evangelicalism and the concept of moral majority began to really, rise. And we know a lot of that is centered around like televangelism. So it is quite different, although there are evangelicals that can kind of identify as Pentecostal. But and there are some Pentecostals who I look at and sadly I'm like, you're agreeing with people who don't care anything about you. So it is different on the front of today's understanding, especially with our political climate. Evangelicalism has really taken on a persistence of white supremacy, just to say it, what it is. And connecting that with an even more, I don't want to say even more colonized. How many more colonized can your Christianity be? But still, we know that it's rooted in, capitalism and seeing and maintaining this, what me and my mentor identify as a white male patriarchal, misogynist, toxic, capitalist system. So it is quite different, but I think both of them on the surface between evangelicalism and Pentecostalism kind of veer not so heavily on the standards or protocols to being within the tradition. And so that, of course, allows room for more people who may not have the aware of all the steps to take, and being operating in the church. So it's more what they call spirit filled, I guess you would say. So I hope that makes a difference. I want to be clear. I am a reformed Pentecostal, but not evangelical. So it was a little less work.
Got it. Well, you
But
were in the
work.
company of, reformed lawyers and all kinds of, we got our own Reformation going on here.
Oh, I understand that too. I wanted to go to law school at first too, believe it or not. And Lord said different. I ended up in the seminary. Go figure.
Well, these are all ways, to change
Yeah.
the world. So
Yeah.
in your first theology class at Emory University, I read a professor suggested that you explore the religious concept of breath of life. What is that, and where did it take you?
Yeah, that was in my first. Actually, I have been in the PhD program since 2010. I had to change schools. COVID happened. All these. Now, mind you, a PhD. I think Harvard put something out that a PhD takes in Bible theology about 8 years. Now we know that's really for a white male with a partner, so add on being not white, not male, a mother, having children, divorced, COVID, deaths in the family, add all that other stuff. So it's a lot more. So the first school that I did attend, because when I graduated from I did my MDiv at Emory and my THM at Duke. And when I graduated to look at PhD programs, it was at the beginning of the recession. So everyone shut everything down. And at the encouragement of one of the founding womanist scholars, Dr. Katie Cannon, she said, find a school where there's someone that can support your work and get you through. Don't worry about the name, find that. And so there was a woman at Regent, y'all believe it or not, Regent. What's the name? Pat Robertson School. Speaking of evangelicals, they actually had a very progressive faculty at one time, believe it or not. And there was a woman there, Estrella Alexander, that was writing on womanism from a Pentecostalist perspective, which was interesting to me as someone that was recovering. When I say recovering in Pentecostalism, because within my church tradition, women do everything, but you're still not, equal. You all are familiar with that. So
Animal rescue is full of that.
Oh, right. That's what I learned too. So she was guiding me along. And then when things started to shut down at the school, they started to get rid of people. This was actually right towards the beginning of Obama's first term. They were getting ready. And a professor there who does a lot of work on pneumatology, the study of the spirit, he said he was reading something. He said, have you ever thought of doing something on a pneumatology of animals? He said, I know you're vegan. And I said, wow. So pneumatology is a study of the spirit. And therefore, when I look in Genesis, there are only two beings that are given the breath of life. And it is explained in Genesis, and that is human animals and non-human animals. They both have the ruah, the spirit of God. And that brought me to Googling, is there something called animal theology? And of course, it ended up, learning about Andrew Lindsay and everyone. And then as I began to read and grasp more, I then began to read books like by Peter Paris on the spirituality of African people. And I saw so many connections, even down to just a podcast I was listening to by a woman. Her name is Colleen Patrick Goudreau, Compassionate Cooks. And she said, we are to be compassionate and caring. I'm like, where have I heard about this compassion stuff? Oh, Jesus, right. So maybe there is some connection here. And from then on, I began to also look at, and we can look at even the room here. And when I talk about caring for the earth and animals, we know that that has been presented as a white thing, a white person's thing, and not something that definitely not African Americans are solely concerned with. And so I began to dive deep into that and understanding that these opinions are based on who is seen as the authoritative voices. And so then I began to unpack and see that authoritative voices of caring for the earth and animals go back farther than we can imagine. And therefore I began to find not only within the culture of African and Indigenous spaces that there are women. I focus on a lot of Black women or women of African descent leading these areas of caring for earth and animals.
Wow. So help us understand another term, womanist. So we're following you on everything.
Sure. Can I share a screen?
Absolutely. Can you?
Okay.
You make that possible, Phil? Okay.
I'll start here and I'll just go quickly. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to read everything or go through. So this here, womanism comes from, this is a term from Alice Walker. Many of you have heard of Alice Walker. She wrote Color Purple, tons of other things. And so womanism, there are 4 principles that are important. As a Black literary writer, this is important because she said womanism is one, and we rephrase these as radical subjectivity, and that is defining oneself as womanish. And as an African American woman, we've always heard, young girls, stay out of grown folks' business, stop being womanish. That was something that was not encouraged. But someone who's womanish is outrageous, audacious, and courageous, and wants to know more that is considered good for one. So you are basically redefining who you are against white heteronormative descriptions of oneself. The second principle is a lover of women, sexual or non-sexually, appreciative of women's culture, values, strength. Here's the key thing that separates, and this will get into the 4th principle, womanism from definitely earlier feminism, is that womanism realized that I cannot be for myself without being a lover of men and the entire community. So the second principle has been redefined as, not redefined, or a term given to as communal praxis. Of course, you see they're not separatists only for health reasons. If you're in an unhealthy relationship, you need to be a separatist. Okay. 3, loves music, dance, moon, spirit, herself, and the folk, regardless of what everything is around. And then 4 says here, womanist is to feminist as purple is to lavender. And we know purple is unique and different from lavender, but then there's kind of the same, right? So that's womanism. And so what happened was there were 2 professors at Union Theological Seminary, the late James Hall Cone, who's known as the father of Black theology. Really quickly, Black theology is basically a look at theology from a Black perspective. For example, seeing Jesus as Black. He was from, as we say, from the ghetto. He was an enemy of the state. He was innocent and he was murdered. How much more Black could Jesus be? So that is, so he is father of Black theology. And the other one was Beverly Harrison, and she was a feminist. So both of them encouraged, they had students to pursue, because these students at Union realized that some of the greatest challenges they had were from other Black men in the church, in the clergy. And so they began to say, we need to define and understand theology from an African-American woman's perspective. So therefore, it's a God talk, a description of God that represents women of African diaspora, okay? And for me, I take this and say that everything that womanism is complete. But then I do add on that I identify as an eco-womanist, but then I also add in to be intentional and anti-species as eco-womanist, because there are women writing on eco-womanism, but what is I found to be missing is reflection on the oppression of animals as well. So I already talked about these two professors. Some of their students, as I mentioned, Dr. Katie Cannon, the ethicist. Jacqueline Grant is a biblical womanist. One of her greatest texts is White Women's Christ, Black Women's Jesus. Kelly Brown Douglas, who someone here is from Union, so I know they know who Kelly Brown Douglas is. And Dolores Williams, who recently passed, and she had a wonderful critique that many people could not accept about communion. And actually, Dr. Terrell is my chair of my committee, and is also a student and actual researcher for Dr. James Holcomb. And Dr. Stacey Floyd Thomas is she's at Vanderbilt, a renowned scholar on womanist ethics. And she's the one that renamed these 4 areas of womanism. Here are some books that I use, a few of them. Of course, In Search of Our Mother's Garden has the article on womanism. Stacey Floyd Thomas text, which I really love, is because you know what? Everyone in here can be womanist, but what we identify as that every African-American woman are the only ones who can embody womanism. But it is important that we need womanists, right? Just like it's important that we need men to, not be sexist, even though they benefit from a system of sexism. Melanie Harris wrote a text, which I think was brilliant, to call it eco-womanism, because no one had a text called eco-womanism. So that comes up right away. But what I discuss is this missing context of animals. And did you want me to stop there? Or did you want me to say something else about animals that I was?
Please do. We'd love to hear what you have to say about animals.
That's great. So in my dissertation, I discuss Fannie Lou Hamer's involvement with the earth, and of course, Wangari Maathai out of Kenya. But the thing is that even as these women were returning to earth and found that reclamation of identity through the earth connected to a reclaiming of culture, especially Wangari, realized that this had an effect also on nature and on our animals as well. And I have this picture here. Has anyone seen this picture before?
I have not.
Okay. So this, I can't get it to stop. Okay. This picture here is actually, I forgot who donated, but this is an actual sculpture in the ground in the Atlantic Ocean. And it's to represent the many men, women, and I'm sure children that were either thrown over slave ships or jumped, which some people would say, I remember there was an ending to, of course, the most popular movie for us, like Black Panther, where the cousin said, I'm a survivor. I'm not one of those that jump. I mean, but if you think about the trauma that's going on, sometimes the escape and sometimes the most form of resistance is a decision like this. And this brought me to, I don't have a, I don't know how to get out of here. Okay. This brought me to, which I think you all will find interesting, the final chapter of my dissertation. And what happened was I was reluctantly, my daughter's class, or reluctantly I went, my daughter's class had a field trip. I'm in Raleigh to the North Carolina State dairy farm. So all my children have never eaten meat or anything. And so, but they know about some of these things. And so I was really proud my 9-year-old was not here for it. And I said, well, let me just go. It's like, going into, as we say in the church, the enemy's camp. So I said, let me go hear how these people think. And of course it was really troubling. And when we got to the one specific area where the calves were kept, and of course the tour guides were making this sound like, oh, it's just such a beautiful place. And I said, a parent said, well, what happens to the calves? And I immediately said, oh, well, they're either veal or they're kept for the production. And the owner or the guy that lead, he said, oh, that's not correct. That's what people think, And they use another term called they're grown out. I said, well, can you explain what that actually means? And so one of the young ladies that was a tour guide, and she told us, look, she's had 4 years experience on this. And she said that they are proud of their research in that they're working on reintroducing maternal instincts to the dairy cows. Full pause right there. I'm a mother. I breastfed all of mine to like 3-4 years old. I understood, which was almost like a resistance to the culture here, like past 2 months, you're crazy. And so when she said we're scientists, which of course I'm like, okay, these men are going to reintroduce maternal instincts to a mother. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, there came a time where we had to pull a mother off of her calf because she had chewed the tail and had maimed the calf, and we saved. So these dairy cows, which they don't refer to them cows, notice the term dairy cow. Their identity is consumed with this, false label of being a dairy, cow. And she said, we had to remove her to save the cow. And I said, well, did you ever think of the environment the mother is in? And it immediately brought me to a book by Toni Morrison called Beloved. I don't know if anyone has read that. It's
Sure.
actually based off of a true story. Margaret Garner was a woman in Kentucky. She and her husband and her in-laws were fleeing Kentucky to go to Canada. They were going across the Ohio River, and they had a contact, and somehow, and it's her 4 children with her, and somehow the police, also the Klan, also the slave catchers, were sent out to find them. And they were in a home, and when I say the home, Margaret Garner and her husband and her in-laws and her 4 children, and the Klan came and barricaded the house in. And what she did was, and this was a part of the movie Beloved, in the book, is that she ended up slitting the throat of, I think, the two of them, and then she killed the baby, which is probably closest in her arms. And I immediately thought of that because I read the actual interview from The Liberator, which was a newspaper that Du Bois never sent out for anti-abolitionist, campaign. They had a newspaper called The Liberator. And she said that this was the only way where she could set her children free. And we're in such a climate that creates a mother's choice to free her child through death. And for me, I began to look at how this umbrella of capitalism and white supremacy brings oppressed beings, which now is shared experience with what I saw at the dairy farm, and also amongst another mother to mother differently.
Oh, bless
And
you.
what I end up doing is looking at it from a theological and ethical lens, and I called it a maternal altruistic filicide. altruistic maternal filicide.
Wow.
Because out of love, these mothers are forced to mother differently. And I understand that I have to be very careful in making connections like this. In fact, I spent about 5 pages saying, look, I'm not saying Black women are cows, nor am I saying cows are human. But looking at things and the effects and the great effects of things, and making these connections, especially as a mother myself. And even if I know not everyone has a great experience with their mothers, we all have mothers, whether we have a relationship with them or not, we all have mothers. So for this shared oppression for me is something that I try to, I have to be very careful about it, like I said, because it's so new and different, and people do not want to they don't want to be equated to animals. But even that right there is very much a colonized perspective, because if you look at, whether you're talking about first indigenous to this land, to Africa, there's connections always with a certain animal, and it's in pride. But of course, through colonization, there is this, immediate disruption of that. And so I use these discussions, and even really quickly, I use even the work of W.B. Du Bois as what I would say is a forerunner of environmental justice, who said the biggest and easiest way to get people of African descent to remove or not understand their culture is to build this false relationship between themselves and nature. And that's what slavery did.
Oh, well, that is powerful. And I'm so sorry we have to stop there. I think this could go on for hours.
Sorry, I talked too long.
No,
sorry.
Maybe one of these days we can have a workshop with you and just really get around the Zoom campfire and really, pass through some of this stuff and learn more. Thank you so much for being with us today. I so look forward to hearing you again at the Parliament of the World's Religion in August, and I will pass it on to the next event. Bless you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Compassion in Action. Before we begin, and in line with this service's celebration of animal chaplains, I want to give a shout out to 2 animal chaplain friends. A little over a month ago, I lost one of the great loves of my life, my little dog, Sunday. I wasn't prepared for the level of grief that followed. It was deep, it was cutting, it was ever present, and I wasn't doing well. After her passing, 2 friends who were animal chaplains reached out to me. One is Diane Waltner, who is here today. She's a chaplain in training with the Animal Chaplain Training Program, and the other is Compassion Consortium's own Reverend Sarah Bowen. Their special ability to share their powers of healing and the ability to sit in the presence of great grief helped me immensely. They've been a blessing in my life, and my world now seems brighter. And I want to just thank both of you for your caring. It's deeply appreciated. So today we welcome Reverend Sarah Bowen, founder of both the Animal Chaplain Training Program and the Compassion Consortium. Sarah, why did you begin the Animal Chaplain Training Program?
I love this because it's connected to what Candace was talking about. I also attended Chicago Theological. I also studied under Dr. Terrell and a man named Ken Stone, who does a lot of exegesis on animal-related issues. And what I realized was there were a lot of people in the world who were interested in animal theology and how can we better attend to both animals from a spiritual nature, right? The spiritual lives of animals, and also humans who are grappling with loss and distress and dystopia and all this other stuff. And how can we attend to that better? And knowing that for many people, going through a full Master of Divinity program isn't necessarily attainable. It costs a lot of money to go through an MDiv. It also takes a lot of time, as Candace was just attesting to how much time we put into theological thought. And, all of us have within us the seeds for being able to companion others in the ways that, Elaine, you experienced. from Diane and I. And so we took the chaplaincy program. I like to say it's like part healer, part theologian, part animal advocate. Those are the kind of 3 sections of things that we teach in the program. And we launched it last year. And we've had 55 folks who entered the program, and many who are with us today that we're going to be celebrating and honoring.
So if we enrolled in the program, if all of us were fortunate enough to do that, what would we find surprising?
Oh, that is such a great question. I think it's the intersections. I think is one thing. And the other is the depth of what we can reclaim about concern for habitats, for individual animals, for species from our spiritual traditions, as we talk a lot about here, right? So it's being able to go back. This isn't new, folks. And it's not just St. Francis. Like there's a lot of, and I say that lovingly, knowing how much you love St. Francis, Elaine. But there are so many of these wonderful sacred texts and teachers and inspirational leaders that we can draw things from. And at the same time, that's all great. I'm an Enneagram 7, so like I just toss a lot of stuff at people to take a look at. But we also have within us that seed, again, that seed of just healing presence, of being able to sit with another. So we all have the capacity to be able to do this, even if we think, oh, I'm not sure I could do that. The knowledge and the capacity, that's what you get in the program. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And as a person who had never experienced the benefits of an animal chaplain, I am so grateful that you were both in my life. You've been a blessing. Thank you.
My pleasure, and speaking for Diane, her pleasure as well. You know, these things we learn, the tools of listening, like we did with Elaine, of doing rituals and blessings, and how do we support people in distress, all of those things that are so key to the work that we do here. So I'm grateful for a little time to lift it up today. And then I want to use the rest of our time to talk about these amazing people. Folks, this is our amazing community of folks who have just spent 6 months dedicated to helping people of all species heal, to advocate for them, to companion them, to support them. You see a few photos of other than humans in here. This has been unbelievably amazing journey. It's really remarkable. And it's because of these people. It's because of these people who are engaged in a learning community. So I want to lift up a few of them. All of this entire group comes from 24 different states in the US and 4 different countries. They come from diverse careers. And we have a few who are now headed out to integrate the tools that they've learned into their current work, in fields including forest therapy and bereavement support, ministry, animal care, occupational therapy, prayer chaplaincy, Reiki support. They are doing some amazing things. And so I just want to speak to them and take a moment to give a hurrah or a yay or a whatever it is that we give. To Agnetha Blomberg McCormack, who is across the pond and joins us very, very late at night. To Alexis Burrows, to Allie Carroll, Beth Gill, Laura Brinkerhoff, Linda Levering Schneider, Maggie McKinney's, Kathy Myers, to Kenneth Odhiambo Nindoga, our international affiliate chaplain in Kenya. His name may be familiar because we had an essay from him a couple months ago, the work he's doing there with his wife and his sons. And to Tai Klunik and her wild animal companion, Nova, who has inspired us all to look way more deeply at our relationship with bears. I've learned so much from their relationship, from this beautiful interspecies relationship. So those folks are heading out on what I like to call independent study now, back into their lives. And then in June, we are going to officially ordain those who are in our ordination program. So you'll hear more names and you'll see some more faces in June. They are now engaging in capstones, their own unique compassion in actions. Elaine, do you have a hooray? Do you have a hooray movement? Anybody who has their video on, or even if you don't, because we had it locked down for the bombers, if you could give a hooray moment, do these amazing hearts and souls and minds. We are so proud of you. We love you. We are so delighted you were with us. Oh, that's a good one too. Fabulous. And then we're going to have two of them now to help us roll out with the blessings and prayers. Thank you, Elaine, for letting us co-opt a little bit of your time today. All right, Phil, could you bring up Amy Ryan first? Let me tell you all a little bit about Amy. We're going to have two blessings and prayers as we close out today. Amy Ryan received her undergraduate degree in anthropology from the University of California at Irvine. She chose a career path working in discarded, abused, and harmed domesticated animals that live in our antiquated, abusive, and overcrowded sheltering systems. She's clearly a saint. I'm going to have to get a picture of Amy made, Saint Amy here. Her intentions were to help end the suffering of those animals, but eventually she had to leave the field due to extreme burnout. Does anyone know extreme burnout? Compassion fatigue, lack of support, little to no end in sight for shelter reform, multiple positions inside a dysfunctional sheltering system. She made the decision to leave this field and a 30-year career to regroup and preserve her sanity. She has also operated the only animal ambulance in the state of Georgia. I hope you were wearing that hat and those glasses when you ran that ambulance, because that is fabulous. And she is currently a member of our training program where she's learning to bring some of these tools and these methods that we have, particularly in consideration of what's going on in the shelter system. A lot of people don't know what's going on there, and Amy is a wonderful voice within our cohort for raising that up. But today she's going to talk about snakes. So if you could give us 30 seconds here, Amy, on what inspired you to do this practice this blessing while Phil gets our snake blessing teed up.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. I was raking leaves in my yard because it's easier for me to pick up dog poop and find it when I have the leaves raked up. And I realized just how many habitats I disturb when I do that, and how many different species and plant lives and everything are living underneath the leaves, and how I could be more mindful when I'm doing chores, or what I consider chores, or about what might be beneath what I can see in my hurriedness to get my raking done. Not Reiki, but raking. So anyway, this video that you're going to see is just one species I came across while doing such a thing.
I love this. I love Amy's videos. I get a lot of her appreciating different beings in her habitat. Phil, we're ready to go.
Hey, gorgeous angel. Hi, baby. I just want you to know that you're safe here. I'm sorry if I messed with your habitat a little bit. And I know you've been watching me. I was just trying to rake some leaves so I can better find the dog's poo. I have a feeling you were probably enjoying the shelter of all the leaves and the comfort of not being disturbed. So I apologize. I appreciate you. And thank you for your presence today. I hope you feel safe and unharmed. And now I'm going to give you space.
Amy, thank you for that. Thank you for reminding us that we don't need to memorize a particular prayer or a verse or do something with a lot of pomp and circumstance, but that we can just walk around in the world with this attitude and be a blessing to those we come in contact with. You are awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we've got a second blessing coming up. Jennifer says, my soul has always been deeply connected with animals. My love for them had me rescuing them at a young age and making sure I knew where the no-kill shelters were in California to take them to. I'm proud that I successfully passed this love on to my 2 boys. My intuition has always shown me that I could work with animals more devotedly in my life and learn how to help heal our world, but I was never sure exactly how. After years of volunteering and mentoring and connecting with other like-hearted people, she still felt led down to a different, more meaningful path than would take her out of the corporate world that she's always been in. Anyone ever feel that one? Yeah. When the animal chaplaincy training program presented itself, it all came together for her. And she's learning more than she imagined and is grateful for this cohort and training. I feel like I owe you $20 for that, Jennifer, or at least a t-shirt. What a lovely sentiment. And we are grateful for you and this beautiful closing blessing that you have provided for us today. So as Jennifer leads us through, tells us a little bit about the what went into the blessing and how she created it and leads us through this, I'm going to ask Phil to also open our chat so that, as usual, any of you can add into it your blessings, your prayers that you would like to have witnessed by this community. All right, Jessica, the floor is yours.
As we were working on our blessings, I kind of just let it come, and the symbol kept coming to me, and I didn't know what it was. Although I'm very interested in Reiki now, especially, and it's the Reiku symbol. And so as I looked that up, it just was so clear that it was an art piece to use with a blessing for healing. So that's kind of where it comes from. My understanding is it's called a completion symbol, and so it kind of uses during the final stages of Reiki for the healing practice, and it all kind of comes together. It transports and channelizes the chi to the major chakras on the spinal cord, which I love, the chakras. So if you feel led, I think, and read it with me, whoever would like to, we can take a deep breath. May you be held in love and surrounded by nourishing light. Healing energy is flowing within you. You will thrive again, strong, vibrant, whole. Your restoration is near. Thank you.
Oh, folks, take another deep breath. That is beautiful. We will include Jennifer's beautiful blessing words in our newsletter so that you can all return to those and use those. And we thank you and the conked out dog behind you.
There's two. There's one hiding this way.
The conked out dogs behind you for being present with us today.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And for all of you who have mentioned things here in chat or who have something on their mind, some place where they would like healing sent to, that they would like blessings for, just keep them coming in there. Keep them coming. Yeah, Susan says, may we hold sacred our beloved whales who are experiencing many, many deaths due to human activity on the East Coast of America and worldwide. Yes, we pray for them all. Absolutely. For every species, for all of those who were not mentioned today, for those who are close to you, for those whose names we don't know, for those we have yet to discover, and lucky for them, discovery. Yeah, we could go off on that word for a while. So with that, I will bid you all adieu. I will hand it over to William, but I do have one announcement. William, I'm going to do it right now so then I can mute myself and stop. Did anyone notice the shirt that I was drinking from this water bottle? Yes, folks, you have been asking for swag, and we have swag. So I will put a link into the chat if you would like to show your colors, so to speak, or you would like to feel a little more part of this community with your clothing. I don't know. I do when I wear this. P22's funeral, rocking this shirt. I will put the link in the chat. William, over to you.
Yes. So what I'm going to do is just let you know what's coming up, because we increasingly have a lot of things coming up, and I want to make sure you know about them. So as you know, we do have an engaged member practice on the third Monday every month, and we now also invite all of our ACT, Animal Chaplaincy Training Program members to attend. And our engaged practice for March 20th will feature Adriana, who you already met, and she'll be offering a Council of All Beings practice from the work that reconnects. It's a set of teachings and practices developed by the Buddhist scholar and activist Joanna Macy. The Council of Beings is a communal ritual practice in which participants take on the identity of another life form, whether that be a ginkgo tree, river, bee, deer, or fish, and express the concerns that are relevant to them. It's a powerful practice of cultivating one's ecological self, and participants bear witness to both the cries and strengths of both the human and more than human world. I'm really looking forward to that. And so then we move on to our March 26th spiritual service. And so as I was doing our last newsletter, I noticed at the top that it said version 24. And I thought, wow, does that mean we've had 24 spiritual practices? And I counted backwards and I realized that we have. And so for the next one, we always have a spiritual guest, and we call them special spiritual guests for a reason. And on March 26th, we are going to have another special spiritual guest, and it's going to be Dharmachari Seven. And Seven is an Indigenous Buddhist Dharma teacher. He did a pre-doctoral internship at Yale in psychology, then became a doctoral student at UCLA, graduating early to travel to India and Southeast Asia to put scholarship and yoga into serious practice. He has been the Dharma editor for Wisdom Quarterly American Buddhist Journal for a dozen years, and he has co-authored a book on the Abhidharma, or the Buddha's Ultimate Doctrine, and also a book on yoga. So I hope you can join us for that. And then the Compassion Consortium is going to be a co-sponsor of a very beautiful experiential in-person spiritual event coming to upstate New York, the Ithaca area, June 1, 2, and 3. It's called The Soul of Ahimsa, a Vegan Spirituality Retreat. And the featured presenters will be the legendary nutritional biochemist T. Colin Campbell, author of the China Study, our own Victoria Moran from Main Street Vegan, and Swami Chidananda, who is a monk of the Bhakti Marga order, which operates this fully vegan retreat in Elmira, New York. So I hope you can join us for that. And in closing, if you enjoyed this service and would like to support us, we encourage you to donate on our website at the link posted in the check box. We always accept donations if you are so inclined. And then also check out our membership program. All the details of this are on our website at compassionconsortium.org/membership. And I think I'm finished. Okay.
That is a lot of excitement, William. You were exciting. You were illuminated. That was a lot of stuff. My calendar is full, as is my dance card. Thank you so much.